I don't want to brag or nothing, but I went to the Masters golf tournament. If only the church were like the Masters golf tournament. This is Wretched Radio. Recently went to the Master... Why can't I stop talking like this? I think it's the music. Zoink Scoob, this is Wretched Radio. I don't want to brag or nothing, but I went to the Masters golf tournament, and chances are you didn't. I'm not bragging about this, and I don't intend to make you feel bad, although it somehow brings me some pleasure to make Dr. Steve Lawson feel bad that he didn't get to go to the Masters golf tournament when he's a total golf fanatic, but I did. Maybe Alistair Begg might be jealous because I didn't see him there, but I did see 100,000, mostly men, follow the rules. Here are two of the rules. Jimmy, it is your job, if you choose to accept it, to guess the third rule at the Masters golf tournament in Augusta, Georgia.
Okay.
First of all, you can't take pictures. So just don't even bring a camera. Don't bother taking pictures. This is our property. You can't do it. Furthermore, we're going to shush you. And if you don't zip it when we tell you to be quiet or we put up one of our signs, you're going to be escorted out. You can't walk anywhere you want to. There are paths for you, and you're going to stay on them. And these men who were so delighted to be at the Masters golf tournament said, "Yes, sir, please just let me in." And if that doesn't persuade you that the church should consider becoming more like the Masters golf tournament, here's the rule that was a shocker. Jimmy, would you like to guess, sir, what is the most fantastic, and I mean it's really, when you think about it, absolutely shocking rule of the Masters golf tournament?
Does it have something to do with applause?
Yeah.
It does.
Well, sure, that's a rule too, but that's not the biggie that I'm thinking of.
Okay.
You have to surrender your cell phone before entering the property.
Oh.
What? You want me to take away my heart? You want me to take away the control center and give it up for 12 or 14 hours? Yes. And we did. Happily. Why? Because we wanted to be in there. And I can't help but think, if the church perhaps adopted the Masters golf tournament methodologies and values and beliefs about what it is that they are doing on that very special weekend, we might just stop shrinking, or at least stop being laughed at. The seeker-sensitive model, going back now, perhaps 40 years, you pick the date, when a group of evangelicals said, "Hey, people are dropping like flies. What can we do to get some of them back to church? What can we do to encourage the world to check us out?" And so we decided to make church cool, relevant, hip, relational, fun. You going to your Easter egg hunt this Easter? That is what church has become. And the attendance is plummeting. It is dropping like a stone, like never before. And I think there is a correlation to our attitude about the church and attendance. Now, we shouldn't seek to do the church just to build the numbers. We seek to do church the way that, who wants to do church? Who gets to decide these things about how church is done? Oh, yeah. It's supposed to be Jesus. And the question that we therefore should ask when it comes to every element of the service is, how would Jesus like this done? If he is, Hebrews 2, the worship leader in the middle of his people, how does he want worship led? What are the components that he demands inside of a church service? He should be the one who determines how church is done. And I got to tell you, I don't think, now I'm just musing a bit, I don't think our holy, awesome, consuming fire God is excited about, hey, church, how you doing this morning? Man, good to see. Come on, you can do better than that. Band, Fire up the 80s medley. Not so sure Jesus is all that excited about that style of worship, but that is the style of worship that we've adopted as we brought down virtually every distinctive, every rule, everything that people would argue makes church so stodgy. Well, you can choose the word stodgy. I would choose the word reverent. And it seems that if you are reverent, like they are at a golf tournament, people will come if. This is the key. This is the linchpin to ecclesiology. What are we doing there? If it's rock and roll, cool, casual, untucked, entirely worldly, what is that telling the world? We're worldly. Our God is worldly. Our God is casual. But when we treat church like the assembling of the saints of God, the called out ones who have the distinct honor of worshiping God in the most condensed fashion imaginable, a bunch of Christians filled with the Holy Spirit get together and they proclaim the praises of God, hear from heaven through the preaching of the word, pray to God because of our intercessor, Jesus Christ, and we treat it like, hey, this is a big deal. And if you don't want to perhaps follow our protocol, you don't come in. Am I talking about church membership? No, I'm not. But as long as I brought up the subject, what should church membership look like? Now, I know that has been jettisoned by most evangelical churches. They don't bother with membership, which I think is something that is indeed biblical. It is actually assumed in the New Testament. If you're a believer, you're in a church. That's the assumption. Why? Because it's only as a member of a church that we can do the one another's, that we can do life together, that we can utilize our spiritual gift for the edification of the what? The family, the neighborhood? No, the body. The church is the called out ones who get to do the highest activity an individual, a human being, can perform. That's what we're doing. And if you would like to join this, you need to understand that there are some expectations. Now, please note, in fact, a buddy of mine, we're texting about this, emailing about this very subject. I am not suggesting that somebody needs to be perfect. I'm not suggesting that somebody needs to be fully sanctified and mature. I'm not suggesting that at all. If you have a credible profession of faith, if you have a mustard seed faith, if you have a thief on the cross size faith, you're a member of the universal church. But as perhaps you learned in catechism, if your church did that, another thing we've jettisoned because it's too hard for the kids. Yeah, giving up a cell phone is too hard too. But we go. In catechism, we learn some things about God, about his character, about his nature, about what he demands and what he desires. And he desires inside of the church that we are working people. And you're accepted inside of the universal church, but there is also a different type of church. There's the church triumphant, and there is the church local. And these, we're all in the church. If you've repented and put your trust in Jesus, you're in the church of God. But being a member of a local church means that you should at least understand what's expected of you and that there are indeed expectations. Do we expect people to meet those expectations before they can join? No, I'm not saying that. But I am saying, shouldn't the front door of the church, which is, might I suggest, now I know some of you, like Steve Lawson and Alistair Begg, would find this perhaps rather sacrilegious, but church is actually a loftier activity and event than the Masters Golf Tournament. So shouldn't church membership at least let you know up front, hey, you've got a credible profession of faith. We're thrilled to pieces you want to join this body. And before we commit to one another in this covenanted relationship, we should do what is always done in covenant, and that is lay out the terms of agreement. Expectations. We'll tell you what we're going to do, and we're also going to let you know what is expected of you. And if you affirm, yep, I'm all about serving in the body, and I understand that if I don't do that, I could be disciplined. And that would go for other aspects of life. If you're not willing to commit to that, then I'm afraid, well, we're not going to tell you like the Masters golf tournament says, if you're caught with your cell phone, you'll be escorted from the grounds forever, period, ever, period. No, we wouldn't say that. But shouldn't we at least people know the expectations? Otherwise, it's a bit of a bait and switch. Yeah. Come on and be a member. When then eventually we're going to start hitting them with some rules. Hey, what's up with this? Yeah, and if you don't follow them, we're going to discipline you. Hey, what kind of clam bake is this? Instead, let's see church as what it is. Let's make it harder to go through the front door, easier to go out the back door, because it is my contention that the church, this shouldn't be a blast of information, the church is more important than the Masters golf tournament. Yep, I said it. This is Wretched Radio. If you would like to see the entire episode of the snippet you're watching and perhaps check out my piano chops, simply visit wretched.org. Good morning, heathens. I'm your teacher, Mr.